Let's talk about this State of the Union, because President Trump had a rare successful meeting in Davos. What are we expecting from this speech?
I was talking with some sources over the weekend, Shery, and all indicators are that we're going to see the president that we saw in Davos tomorrow night during his technically first State of the Union address. What I'm really interested in, though, is to see on infrastructure if there's going to be any Democrats applauding. Now, based upon the reporting that I've done, I can tell you that a lot of Democrats are skeptical of how the president wants to pay for the infrastructure plan by luring in private investment. But there are some more centrist Democrats who could be on board with that, and those centrist Democrats, as we all know, hold the keys to whether or not this can be a mission accomplished.
We already know a lot about the infrastructure plan, unless for some reason it's changed radically in the last few days. We should know what Democrats think about it already.
Yeah, right. But I think in terms of the divide is going to be interesting, not just on infrastructure, but on other things like deregulatory policy. We've seen, of course, the president's withdrawal from key environmental protection standards. But where does he stand on things like Dodd-Frank? That has not been at the forefront so far publicly of this administration. It'll be interesting to see whether or not he continues to lay out some of the principles as previous administrations have used the State of the Union for, to get a little bit in the weeds and signal in terms of rules-based things that could be in the pipeline for the next 12 months.
I've just talked about how unpopular President Trump is when you take a look at his approval ratings. How important is the State of the Union in changing the narrative around presidents?
You know, what's fascinating is that, look, I've covered then candidate Trump since the beginning and now into the White House, and he's always been this way. And so I would expect tomorrow to have a bit more of a unifying rhetoric that we've seen. And typically we have seen him every now and then do that, like we've seen in Davos. But on the flip side of that, there's no question that Democrats are ready to pounce. And they've got Congressman Joe Kennedy, a rising Democratic star from Massachusetts, from a political dynasty. Now, whether or not people like political dynasties in politics, we'll have to wait and see. But he's someone I think it's going to be interesting to watch as well. And look, the Mueller investigation is casting the shadow over this whole entire thing.
In terms of who President Trump will be speaking to, obviously he'll be speaking to his base. Will his base be moved by anything that they hear tomorrow night? What will he include, in order to up his likability among base voters?
I was talking with a Republican strategist, Vonnie, over the weekend who suggested to me the base is still with Trump, with President Trump. And if you look at the polls, we haven't seen much movement in terms of the base of the Republican Party going away on that. And we should also note that we're seeing more Republicans fall in line with the administration in their attacks on the Mueller investigation. So that's been quite interesting to watch as well, how this has become so politicized. But at the end of the day, the president doesn't have any authority over the timeline for when that concludes. So tomorrow, the president looking to seize all power that he can do with the bully pulpit, so to speak, and really capitalize on that. From there, he goes to West Virginia for a top Republican retreat. He'll be meeting with UN Ambassador Nikki Haley, Vice President Pence, Secretary of State Rex Tillerson as well.
Also politicized immigration. What's the latest report?
So the back and forth on immigration continues. You've seen the president, to some extent, Democrats wouldn't say this, but Republicans feel moved to the middle a little bit ahead of the DACA deal, ahead of the March 5th deadline. Let's not forget they've got to pass another partial government funding bill by February 8th. So I'm sure you'll be down in Washington sometime before that looming potential of another government shutdown.
And another fifth stopgap measure, perhaps.
Here we go again.